Guys, I want to talk about this guy. Now, there was a lot of fanfare when we got him on the last day of the window. It was like, oh my God, we've got Muani, and we've signed another brilliant player. He's been injured the whole time since. Played 11 minutes, 12 minutes against Villarreal, then has had the world's longest dead leg ever since then. But we do know that last week he played behind closed doors game against Watford, and he got 45 minutes into his legs. Guys, when are we expecting Muani to be fully fit? And are we expecting him to go straight into that 11 as the forward? And how good is he? Anyone can go.
For me, I mean, look, big long-term fan of his. I laughed when we were supposedly trying to sign him last January. I just thought there's absolutely no chance of us selling that story to him. You know, Juventus or free fall Tottenham. But the truth of the matter is, he was very good for Juventus. He was very good in the Club World Cup. He wanted the move to Juventus, sat around for something like 77 days or something like that, or it might even have been more. Not very professional, should have been keeping himself fit. The deal didn't come off, and then Spurs nip in and get the deal. For me, he's nowhere near match fit, nowhere near it. No pre-season. That's a handicap. No pre-season. No full match fitness. Is he a good player? Yes. Is he better than Richarlison and Solanke? Yes. But I think people's expectations that he's going to just come in and actually be the man, I'm not sure myself. I'd like to have 70% of the guy that was at Eintracht Frankfurt, and the reason why PSG paid 95 million euros for him. But I think we have to curb our expectations of he's a name, he's a very good player, but come on, it's like expecting Kolo after an injury or a long time out not playing a game just to come back and suddenly hit the ground running. It ain't going to happen. It needs time. But I think that I would say that if he comes back against Villa as a sub, I'd like to think that by the end of November, mid-December, we start to see the real Kolo Muani play. But I'm not expecting fireworks to start with, even though I'm a big fan of the player.
Is he, just quickly before I move on, Johnny, in your opinion, is he the best striker at our club? Assuming everyone's fit, is he the best striker at our football club?
Yes. And the reason I say that is because he's the most mobile. He's the most mobile. And, you know, if we can play, you know, like on a counter-attack, breaking from defence, ball over the top, when you're playing with Xavi Simons and Kudos, and hopefully a much improving Wilson Odabber or Matthias Tel on the other side, I think he's exactly what we need. We don't need anyone to slow it down up front. So I believe he's the best of the three, personally.
Do you remember when we signed Muani? I said this is a risk. I think we're taking a risk here. So far, it's been a risk. It's not really worked, has it? And this injury thing. Yeah, I know he's got an injury, but
he wasn't fit. I mean, listen, look, you know football still, right? If you've not played any football and you've had no pre-season and you're 77 days in or 80 days in, you're not going to go onto the football pitch and play football, are you? You know that.
But then it's a risk to sign that player, isn't it? It's a risk to sign a player that isn't fit. And I just look, I hope he gets to a position where he can play 90 minutes of football and he can lead the line, because the current striking options at this club are diabolical by the standards we've been used to. If you think of the strikers we'd had the last 30, 40 years, what we're seeing now is nothing short of horrendous. They don't score. If it wasn't from defenders and an occasional midfielder scoring goals, we're just not scoring goals. The strikers don't do anything in this squad. So I want him to work because we need him to work, but this was a risk. I hope it pays off. I really do.
think it's poor on Muani's part to turn up at the club overweight. He done nothing for 11 weeks. I mean, and where are we now? We are middle of October, so he's been at the club a month and a half, and we've seen him on the pitch for just over 10 minutes. It's really poor. I don't see him, if he does get into his stride, maybe Christmas if we're lucky. It's going to be a while.
I've got to be honest. It gives me.
Sorry, Sean. Just quick. I just want to challenge you on that. Is it his fault though? Like, if he has had a dead leg for however long, and as Johnny said, if he I think it was something, wasn't it, like 77, 78 days that he'd not played and trained. Can we really then blame the guy, or are we blaming, again, I know I'm not allowed to say this, you lot tell me off. Can we blame the recruitment team that we've waited all summer to bring in a forward, and the forward we bring in is someone that's had absolutely no pre-season, is injured?
Is it not fair to say that the concern for me is that he turned up out of condition rather than get it? You pick up an injury in training, you get a dead leg, you're out for a few weeks. That happens, but he should have been in much better shape when he turned up at the club. Purely,
I don't understand this right? Pre-season narrative. Like, he wasn't like he was out of work. He was employed by a football club throughout the summer. He didn't arrive injured. He got injured after that 10-minute spell when he looked like he was blowing chunks out of his arse after 30 seconds of running. I was turning around to the guy next to me in the stadium going, "Is that Kolo Muani? He's just come on." And his hands are on his knees and he's going like me after a power wank on a Friday night. I mean, I don't know what we're doing.
I know, but the fact that you wanked yourself into a coma, Sean, has nothing to do with it. But look, I think the thing is with him.
What are we doing?
When you don't have any pre-season at all, right? Like Stel will tell you, right, or anyone who knows, no pre-season is going to set you back. You see it all the time. Top players, he's not the same. He didn't have his pre-season. People think that it's a minor thing. You just turn up. But look, the fact of the matter was he had a medical. And if there was major issues, they should have been flagged up in his bloody medical that he had a problem, and we shouldn't have signed him if that was the case.
But he wasn't injured though, Johnny. This is the thing. He came here. He just was out. He was out of
physical,
out of fitness. He got the dead leg happened like 5 weeks ago.
I know, but you still have a physical when you have the thing. So they would have been testing oxygen levels and all the rest of it. Yeah.
Well, true, but I'm guessing that aren't the physicals these days just to check that there's. I mean, I don't know. I'm not an expert, but aren't the physicals just checking that your heart works correctly and that you have all of the usual. That there's nothing that's flagging up with regards like like arrhythmia or whatever. I don't know. Listen, what I would say is to get back on the track of whether or not he'll be a good player. I think they've got a little bit of vibes of Gareth Bale when he came here for the second time. He took forever to get up to speed in the Mourinho system, but by the time he got on the pitch, he actually contributed quite a lot in the second half of that season and showed glimpses of where he was, of his sort of former self. But he hadn't played a lot of Real Madrid before he came to Tottenham, so I would hope it's the same thing. There's a very good player in there for sure, and we definitely need him. We definitely need him as soon as possible.
Sean, if Muani finishes up with the 18 goals that Bale got that year, I'll be delighted.
Mate, Gareth Bale was world class. He was an unbelievable football player. This is all because, yet again, we've waited until the last minute, the last day, to bring in a key player. We had all summer. We had from the end of May to bring in a player. We waited until the end of the month. The last minute, the last second. This is what you get. This is what happens.
Yeah, I agree.
It is down to recruitment. The recruitment team need to be held accountable again.
Well, listen. Luckily, that New England squad player Dane Scarlett didn't go out on loan.
Yeah, luckily.
By the way, he's got a promotion to the England team, the England training team, didn't they? Old Dane Scarlett, one of our own.
Yeah, absolutely.
I didn't see that one happening.
Oh. He needs to be given a chance. If we're gonna continue like this without Muani and Solanke, Scarlett needs to be given a chance. I don't understand it. How can it be worse? How can it be worse with him up front?
Than who?
Richarlison.
Oh yeah, Richarlison's. Well, Matisse Tell, my striker, my inside forward.
Look at Phil's face. I knew where Sean was going. I knew.
We hadn't had a chance to speak about that game. Did we do a show after the Leeds game? I don't think we did we?
No, we were busy disbanding the channel.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. We
were shutting down the channel. Yeah. Close it now.
So So Stel, like, are we gonna have a little, a couple of seconds to congratulate him hitting the crossbar with a well-timed header, playing on injured with a twisted ankle, but also scoring, the goal that got us in the front. A little bit of credit where it's due.
Well done after 10 games, hitting the crossbar and scoring a deflected goal. Brilliant. More.
You see, you
keep it going.
Away the goal. Why would you undermine it?
No, I'm not taking away the goal. It was a deflected goal. I mean, if you don't shoot, you don't score, right? I did a post-match video actually, and I said, if you don't shoot, you don't score. So I can't criticize him because he took a shot. But let's have it right. It was a deflected. That's not going top bins without that deflection. Look, if he can do that, Sean, if he can do this now for a run of games, a good 2-3 months, then there's a conversation to be had. But how many times have we seen
backlift as well? Lovely little low backlift, Jermaine Defoe-esque with the low backlift there for that shot.
I mean, we're playing
against the mighty Estonia tonight. Matthias Tell got a goal and an assist. Right, what more could you ask for?
Well, yeah, against Leeds, Estonia, Burnley, I expect him to be brilliant. But when we have real football games, what does he do? Nothing.
There's a lot of players that are flat trap bullies, though, right?
You can't write him off at this stage. You can't write him off at this age. You just can't.
No, you really can. You really can. He's shit.
It's madness.
He's rubbish, man.
You would have written off Kevin De Bruyne, wouldn't you? You at his age, you would have written off Mo Salah. Mo Salah was still playing in Ball.
No,
we'd seen them because before they went to Chelsea. There's a difference. We knew they were playing.
They were binned by. They were binned by Chelsea.
They were decided not to deem
not good enough. Why?
They weren't good enough.
Hang on. No, hang on. You've got
to remember. Talent ID was to
hang on, you've got to remember that when everyone I'll be honest, I hate it when people say this. It's like I heard this for years whenever I talked about Sessegnon. Oh, you would have binned off Bale. And I'm like, who has ever watched Sessegnon and gone, wow. We saw Gareth Bale at Southampton as a youngster and went, yeah, you can play.
Semenyo at Newport County. Would you have written him off? Did you even know he had talent then?
Yeah, but Spurs, I wasn't asking Spurs to buy him when he was at Newport County.
That's the point. You know what I mean? That's not the point. The point is you're writing players off too young.
Hang on. When you say, but this is the problem. When we're saying writing players off, let's bring it back to a sensible starting point. The starting point is, are they good enough? And I think Stel might agree with me on this one. Are they good enough right now for the Spurs first team? That's where I'm starting.
Yeah, but they weren't intended to be, were they? They weren't intended to be starters. It's the same with a lot of the players that they get their chance. Sometimes they get shoehorned because of injuries. Would Matthias Tell be playing as striker if Solanke was fully fit?
No.
Would he be playing? Would Xavi Simons be at the club, or would he be on the left-hand side if James Maddison was fully fit? You're making the argument that they shouldn't be starting, but you're right. They probably shouldn't be starting, but they are starting because we've got chronic injuries to 3 or 4 different players in the same sort of positions.
Sure.
There's context.
Sure. Of course there's context, but the context is as well, is having seen enough of Tell over the years.
But you haven't seen enough of anyone at 20 years old, though, Sam. That's the point.
Hang on. Sure, hang on. You can't make my point for me. That's just not right. All right, let me get my point up. We've seen, believe it or not, there are other leagues other than the Premier Leagues. We've seen him play for Bayern Munich. Right, I saw him play for Bayern Munich for 2 years. We've seen him play on loan at Spurs. Just for me personally, I don't look at him and go, you should have ever have been bought for Tottenham. Now, does that mean I'm writing him off for his career? No. But personally, he just isn't. He doesn't do anything for me personally. I don't think he's got a good touch. I don't think he's got good skill. I don't think he's got any strength. I don't think his IQ is there. For me, he will probably have a great career in football. But do I want him at Tottenham? Do I think he should be anywhere near our team? No.
But does that opinion that you formed of someone before Their frontal court. He can't go to America. If he gets in the World Cup, he can't go to America and legally have a beer. And you've made that opinion of him before he's 21 years old. And you're saying that basically, and I'm worried now that opinion you formed is going to always jeopardize or sort of cannibalize a fair value if he improves.
No. When I see him improve, we can say, yeah, he's improving. I've not seen him improve at all. This is the problem. I've seen him now. I've seen him now on loan at Tottenham. I thought he did the square root of nothing, right? I've seen him this year in a Spurs shirt. Yeah, he scored his goal. Fair play. He did well, got it out his feet. And like Stel said, if you don't shoot, you don't score. I don't care, by the way, that his goal was deflected. When people use that to belittle somebody, listen, how many goals? Lampard talks about it all the time. How many goals did Frank Lampard get from having a shot? It's hit about 15 bodies and flown in. If you don't shoot, you don't score.
But he scored 20 goals a season.
Yeah,
so he kind of gets away with it.
No, I get it. But still, I'm backing you up here. My point here is I don't look at Tel and go, yeah, that for me is a Tottenham Hotspur footballer. I know some people are really offended by this. There's nothing about him that I go, yeah, I like watching Tel. That's just me personally. Doesn't mean he's going to have the worst career in the world. Doesn't mean he's the worst footballer I've ever seen. But I just go back.
I'm not asking you to see him through the same lens that other people who want to give him a bit more time do. I just worry that people that make their minds up on 20-year-olds then get embedded in opinions, and then they don't want to give any wiggle room. They want to downplay, like Stel, trying to diminish the strike by saying it was a deflected shot, right? If it was that big of a deflection that it wouldn't otherwise have gone in had it not been for the deflection, those things are called own goals. Like, I think that it gets to a point where people make their minds up early on players or on any particular concept, and then they get entrenched in an opinion, and then they don't want to.
Sure, but that's not happened yet, has it, Sean? That's not happened yet. We've seen
improvement. There has clearly been an improvement in the last couple of games.
Stel had that opinion, right? Sorry, Stel, talk about you like you're not here. If Stel had that opinion in 10 games' time where Matisse Tel has gone and scored 6 goals in 10 Premier League games, then I would turn around and say, yeah, that Stel, come on, you've clearly got the agenda against this player. But I agree with Stel. For me, what I saw, he had 13 touches in the game, by the way, right? What I saw was did well for the goal. No one's going to take that away. Good header, right? Other than that, I saw Matisse Tel that I normally see. Now that's. But you
take the same approach to Odabber that clearly had one of the better games on the park, and he did so much more. And your take on Odabber is similar to your take on Tel. You put them in the same bucket.
I think Odabber's a much better footballer than Tel. Let me put that out there right away. But again,
it's the first time I've heard you say that.
What, that he's much better than Tel?
It's the first time I've heard you ever. You've always.
Do you remember?
3 years ago, Eric Dyer and Ben Davies in the same bucket. I think you have to treat them as individuals, but people don't. People make out that Odabber and Tel are like.
Listen, those two aren't a package deal for me. I just don't rate either of them. Right now, my level of I look at Tel and go, yeah, you do nothing for me as a player. He does nothing for me. Right, Odabber, he's neat and tidy. But I've said this to you a million times. For what I like in a winger, he does none of the things that I like from a winger. He does. He never ever looks like he's going to actually threaten a fullback. He never looks like he's going to score a goal. And I can remember 1 or 2 assists since he joined a year and a half ago. Right. So for me personally, it's not.
Was it against Villa? Was it against Villa?
West Ham played last season though. He was injured for 8 months last season.
Mate, but then we can go back to Burnley. The guy is not a threatening winger, never has been. Now, if he develops that, then my mind can move with that. But at the moment, nothing's made me watch Odabber. If we're going to move to him, nothing's made me watch Odabber and go, cool, yeah, you're really good. I watch him and I go, okay, neat, tidy, a few passes.
Because he doesn't do what Kudus does with the ball, yeah?
No, because Kudus is a rare animal.
But hang on. It's not just about Kudus.
Kudus is a proper football player. That's what he is.
He's a rare animal, number one in Europe, mate.
Kudus isn't the only winger in the world, right?
No, I'm just saying, but it's a comparable because he plays for Tottenham.
Okay, comparable. He plays for Tottenham. Kudus threatens and scares the crap out the other team. For me, Odabber, as I've said, if I'm a right back, I want to play against Odabber. If I'm a right back, that's a nice day for me playing against Odabber because he's not threatening. He does nice things
But he enables you, Doggy, to have and Tottenham to have just as much access down our left-hand side as our right-hand side. In the absence of having that dual
winger, I need you to be threatening. I don't care.
Do you know what? Can I say one thing, right? The same people that say too quick to judge are the same people that moan about the quality of our front line. You can't have both worlds. When Richarlison scored those 2 brilliant goals against Burnley start of the season, everyone said, "Oh, look, he's back." I said, "No shit, Burnley are crap." And well, a lot of people said it. And when he got the assist against Man City, I said, "Guys, we always beat Man City. We're getting carried away." Now look, reality's kicked in. He's shit. Tel cannot be judged Okay, fine. You cannot judge Tel as being a really good player or, he's showing signs because he scored against an average football team. He's been at this club since January last year. He's coming up to 1 year at this club. He scored like 3 or 4 goals and 2 assists. What's he done?
There's massive context that you're leaving out of that whole
scenario. We spent £4 million on this guy, Sean.
That's not his fault, is it? That's like saying
it's not my fault. It's not my fault.
The players I can say it is your fault, right? But you're making the point about the price tag. The price tag is not the fault of the player. But you're also saying that
it's a waste of money.
You're undermining the contribution against Leeds because it's Leeds. Like somehow every Premier League game.
No, it's because it's rare. It's rare. It's rare for him to do anything half decent. It's very rare to see Tel score or hit a post.
So what team would he have to score about? What team would he have to score against in the Premier League?
He needs to do it consistent. He needs to do it consistently.
But you didn't make the point about consistency a minute ago. You made the point about the quality of the opposition.
Yeah, because he only does it when he does it, which is rare, against the weaker teams.
He does. Yeah,
Brennan Johnson, by the way, Brennan Johnson's got similar stats. If you look at his 20-odd goals he scored last season, 16 of them were against lower level opposition, by the way. He's got similar stats, but he scored a lot more goals.
But there's a higher proportion of the footballing pyramid in the Premier League are going to be lower level opposition if you consider yourself a top 6 team.
You're going to play. If you want to be in the top 6, you need to beat the top 6. You need to mix it with them.
Yeah, no, but listen,
you're making the argument, Stel. You're making the argument that he scores most of his goals against lower teams than our standard. But the majority of the teams that we play against are lower than our standard. If you're a top 6 team,
no, you've got the bottom. No. When I say hold on. When I say lower standard, I mean the bottom 10. I'm talking about the bottom 10 in the league. I split the league into 2 halves. The bottom 10 is the top 10.
The top 10 isn't necessarily the top 10 right now. It's like this. I mean, would you put? I don't know.
I think it's fair to say. I think it's fair to say, in general, United, Liverpool, Chelsea, Newcastle, Villa, Brighton, Bournemouth, Spurs. These kind of teams are that top 10 group. I think it's fair to say, typically, they're the teams. All right. Look. If we've got to wait to the end of the season to have a debate about Tel, we'll do it. But for me, well done. You scored a goal against Leeds. Brilliant. Okay.
Yeah, but doing it again, though, you're undermining the contribution because
what's he done?
I don't care whether you like him or not. I just don't understand why you want to undermine it. He's one of our own players. We want him to do better. Right? We want him to be good.
Right. That doesn't mean okay. Yes, Ben Davis, new contract. Yes, Reguilon might stay. Yay! They're one of our own. Yay!
He's 20 years
old. I want good players at Spurs. He's not. Yeah, but my opinion is he's not good enough. My opinion is for £40 million, for £30 million, for £25 million, we could have done much, much better than him.
And Stel, that's my whole point to all of this, right? That is my whole point to all of this. I get what Sean's saying, and if Sean likes him more than we do, I've got no problem with that. If we all like the same players, it'd be terrible, right? I get that. But my whole issue is
in him doing well. I want him to do well. I don't think other people do.
I understand. Hang on. Yeah, I get it. I don't disagree with you. We all want him to do well. Whether or not I want him to do well versus what I actually see are two very different things. But my big issue is exactly what Stel just said here, right? My big issue is that we should be buying better quality than that. That's my issue.
I agree with you.
I know you do. I know you do. Listen, I'll sit here right now, Sean, and say, if Tel or Odabber turn out to be absolutely brilliant, and it's get rave reviews, and they do it over. I don't mean one game. And by the way, this is where I disagree with Stel. I don't think it matters it is against Leeds, because Leeds haven't lost at home for 14 months. So that's actually a really tough game, right? But I want to see players do it over a period of time consistently before I start saying, oh, green shoots. If I see
I'm
that,
not,
I'm
again, just to be entirely clear, Sal, and sorry, Johnny, I know you've been trying to come in for 10 minutes, mate. I'll shut up after this point.
That's right, don't worry.
I'm not saying for a second that we should be happy that Matisse, Tel and Odabber are starting. I take the point that we need better. I'm advocating that we sign better players. I also think it's a point to be made that they wouldn't be in the starting 11 had it not been for some like crippling injuries, to long-term injuries to players that were playing in those positions, and a missed opportunity in the transfer window. My point is simply that I feel like some people, maybe you two would say it's not you two, but people in the fan base, I see it on Twitter all the time, their mind is made up on a 20-year-old, which is mind-boggling to me when you look at the 20-year-olds that used to be, that are now 26, that are world-class, that were nowhere at 20 years old. And it almost feels like they don't want these players to succeed because they'd rather be right than supporting what is right, which is the best interest. I'm not saying that about every 20-year-old, and I'm not saying that you're saying that necessarily, but there are an element of our fan base that would rather be right on their opinion on Tel and Odabber and players like them than supporting the players.
We did this with Harry Winks, with Oliver Skip. We do this with all the time with young players. We do it all the time. You can see if a player's a player.
Hang on, let me bloody speak a second, right? What I'm trying to say here is, it's nothing wrong with someone not rating a player, right? What I don't understand is this thing, right, of they don't want the player to become a good player. They've already written him off at 20 years of age.
I want him to be good.
Hang on a second, right? I've criticised Tel for being crap in games and being all over the place. I've made videos about him being crap. I've shown videos of him. But ultimately, I want Thomas Frank to work his magic on him and turn him into the player and use the attributes he undoubtedly has somewhere in that tank and make him a better player that is a player for Spurs, right?
Undoubtedly, according to who, though, Johnny? That's the difference.
According
Just because
to what?
you've got a coach doesn't mean every single player.
No, I didn't say it does. But I'm not saying it does. But what I would say is, having seen Brian Mbeumo, Visser, right, Ivan Toney at Brentford, and what Thomas Frank has done with them over the period of time, I have hope and belief that he can make both Odabber and Tel better players. Whether or not they'll be championship players, they'll be unbelievable players, I don't know. But this incessant thing to write them off, and when they do something good, or they have a game where they're showing some signs, let's fucking embrace it.
That's my point. That's my point.
Let's not smash them down, right? You might be right, Stel. You might be right, Savage. They'll never make it. But this whole thing, right? He's had a good game. Well, it was shit, right? Like tonight, we joked backstage tonight. Odabber's come on and he played the mighty Estonia, right? He scored 2 goals and got an assist, right? Okay, yeah, let's knock it. Let's smock it. But, between the two of them, they scored 3 goals and 3 assists. Now, confidence breeds confidence. Now, they might bring that back to Spurs.
And support is a catalyst.
And that is the catalyst and the mindset to get them on a more positive.
Yeah, hang on. We're missing some. Yeah, I get that, but the problem is
they're going to be well beaters overnight.
Sure, I get that, but if we're going to apply that logic, right, to all football, then that means we're going to have to rate every single player that Spurs sign, right? At the end of the day, for me, if they both improve rapidly, if they both improve to the point where I go, God, they're really good, I'll hold my hands up and go, fair play to the lads. I didn't think they'd make it, right? But the thing is, to Stel's point just now, so I'm paraphrasing a little bit here, Stel, but how many players have we had this conversation about for the last 10, 20, 30 years where we're told, be patient, they're only 20, they're going to come good. Hardly any of them actually do. You get the rare ones that do. For me personally, and I think Stel feels the same, I just watch Tel. I don't see a really good footballer. I see a guy that seems like a nice lad. He works hard. He runs around a lot. but there's no standout quality to him where I go, there's something really good to work with in there. That's only my opinion from having watched him the last couple of years.
His
Not
big
fair.
players, though, are really done and dusted. I mean,
But what's he good at,
Johnny,
Sean?
so many players.
You've asked me you've asked me this question about 100 times on your show, on my channel, and on this channel. I've given you a list of attributes that I rate him on, and you dismiss them all because you don't see them. I do. I think his first touch is very, very impressive. I think his work rate is very impressive. I think his IQ, his pass, his off-play, his connection, and his chemistry with other players has improved massively, and there's a lot to work on there. I used to think he had a pillow shot when I first saw him. Turns out that's not true at all. The amount of zip that was in that half foot raise shot against Leeds. So there's obviously something to work in there. And when I've watched him for the France under-21 game, his ability to pick the ball up in the pocket outside the box and smash the ball top bins with both feet, not just in that game a couple of weeks ago, he did it last season as well, to me is again a good attribute that most 20-year-olds don't necessarily have or haven't honed in that art yet. He has got a lot of things to work. I'm with Johnny. There's a lot in the tank. It's about getting the best out of him. And one of the things, and I'm backing Johnny up on this one, one of the areas I think that you need from a player like that, who's someone who represents himself as I've got an unbreakable, undentable confidence. Those sorts of people generally are actually quite vulnerable. They're like Cadbury's cream eggs, hard on the outside, but really it's a soft center of insecurity. And I don't think that it helps having people going after him. He's a young guy. I'm sure he's on social media all the time, like most young people are. And I'm sure he's just aware of the fact that half the fan base have written him off. And again, Estelle made the equivalency there of saying we should do that with, well, what about Richarlison? Richarlison's 27 years old and been to, I think, 2 World Cups, right? There's a difference there. He's had plenty of time.
I agree with you on that point.
He's tell.
Okay. He should be slaughtered, Richarlison.
is a baby. Same with Odabber. And I just think that, Stell was making a point earlier. We should be giving time to Dane Scarlett, and I'm not going to sit there and say we shouldn't. But if he was making that argument, then where's the consistency?
Can I just say one
Dane
thing?
Scarlett hasn't been.
Dane Scarlett's been on 4 different loan deals and got sent back from all of them, mate.
Can I just say, if all the time that I've been around football, like with agents and what have you, who have been around football and hear about their players and how highly rated they are, right? And how they drop off of a cliff and go nowhere. And the ones who were, deemed maybe surplus to requirements, leave a club, go backwards before they come forward. Look at Eze, for example, right? Released by Millwall. My mate had to beg him to get to QPR, right? Old favours to get him into the club. Right. And so what I'm saying here is, and then you have the players who promise so much, but piss all their talent away at a young age. They're, 23, they're smashing it. Look at Dele Alli. There's loads of them. Loads of them who have all given talent to piss it away. But we write them off so young now. Both we build players up, but we also are guilty of knocking them down.
The problem, can I just come in here? Because I've not spoken on this. Number one, we all want Tel and Odabber to do well. For me personally, I've seen more from Odabber in flashes than I have previously from Tel. I said that I thought both of them had their best games at Leeds. You may say, well, the bar's not high. That's fair enough. But I thought there was enough there that there were some green shoots with both of them. I thought Odabber's ball through to Doggy and the lovely little ball in that put Simmons in the second half at Leeds, I thought was delightful. You could see that he's starting to get confidence. Tel, I think, yes, it was deflected, but he got the ball, he made the run, picked up the ball, shifted it onto his right foot, shifted it again to make the extra space. And from what I've seen with Tel, and I have said this on our show before, but Tel for me before Leeds has been absolutely appalling for Spurs. But when I've seen flashes for him for the French under-21s, he's played well. So there is something there. There's something, and obviously as a Spurs fan, there's nothing we can do till January.
This is the thing. I hear football fans say this all the time when they want to big up a player. There's something there. I'll be honest, the list of attributes that Sean gave me, I don't see in him. Sean does, fair enough. That's just 2 different people having a different outlook on the same player. There's no problem there. But when we're saying we see something in him, I've seen a lot of games of Matisse Tel, and I have to come back to the scouting that I'm asking who decided that for 40, I know this isn't his fault before you guys all have a go. I'm not saying it's his fault, but who decided that for 40 million, this was the best we could get around Europe? Like that's where
Can I ask you
I'm.
a question though, mate? Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Is there any leniency here given to the time to acclimate to a new country, a new culture, a new home, a new team, a new system, a new manager, all of those things? Look at Florian Wirtz, right? He came over, and I know Florian Wirtz is 3 times the player that Matisse Tel. I know we're going to go that path, but he has been appalling relative to the expectation of that price tag of him coming to Liverpool, and because Liverpool, until recently, until the last couple of games, got away with it with late winners and stuff, no one's really been talking about him. Recently they have, because all of a sudden his lack of contribution in those last couple of games has started to, and they've lost the games. People are starting to go now, well, Florian
we're talking about Matisse
Tel.
Tel. We're talking about Tel.
No, I'm using it as a comparable that both
Let
of
me
those
answer
players
the
came across in
acclimatising.
German football. So I just think that there should be some sort of grace given to players who also move country and have to learn everything else.
I
all those
agree,
things
but
are new.
can I tell you the difference? I agree with you, and I think people need time to acclimatise. Absolutely. But the difference is we're making out like we've never seen Matisse Tel play football before he was in the Premier League. And I said when we were linked with him...
You're making out like he was horrendous in Bayern, mate. He wasn't.
Hang on. You asked me a question. I'm trying to answer it, right? When I saw him play for Bayern Munich and we were linked with him, I was literally very consistent from the first. I don't want to sign this lad. I've seen him play. For me, I said, I don't think this improves Tottenham at all. For me, I think there's a lot better 19, 20-year-olds out there in the world of football that you could get a lot cheaper. Now, it doesn't mean he won't come good. That's great. And it might be one of those in 2 years, people want to go, gutted, you were wrong. He's brilliant. Fine. But for now, I just think like there were so many better players you could get at that age than this lad. So yes, acclimatising. Wirtz will be a top player for Liverpool. I've got no doubt. We've all seen him ripping up in the Champions League.
But he struggled thus far, right?
Yeah, but he has also only started 5 games in this country, right? So like
125 million. And I said it, Johnny. If you remember, Johnny, I said it on the channel that can't be named. I said I think that guy's going to really struggle. I think he's going to really struggle initially because there's a lot of pressure that comes with price tags that are above average, right? And at Matisse Tel level, 40 million quid, whether it's his fault and it isn't his fault, it's a millstone around their neck. By the way, I would like to remind everybody in the fan base who might be listening to this that, I mean, I don't remember Saba's personal take on January the 30th when we were first linked with Matisse Tel, but I do remember the general meltdown that happened when Matisse Tel was going to come to us. And then it looked like it was off and he was going to Manchester United. And the Levy out drums were banging then. And then when he came back, and then Man United he's not going to United, he's coming back to Tottenham. And you had the Mark Goldbridge meltdown. He's going to Tottenham. What are we doing there? That whole thing was like, and everyone felt that way. I remember Arsenal, AFTV saying, what are we doing letting Matisse Tel go to Tottenham Hotspur? Everybody in the fan base at the time thought it was going to be a worldie. And then Tottenham fans got excited until we found out that it was a loan deal and the option only stood when Matisse Tel said he wanted to stay. And then every Tottenham fan went, oh, he's only here just to kind of, to promote himself. He'll fuck off at the end of the season. So like the shift in the narrative and the kind of revisionism of 99% of the fan base that went into meltdown mode when we thought we weren't getting him, celebrated when we thought we were, then went into meltdown when we thought it was only an option pending his acceptance rather than our own. We all thought that this guy was using us as a stepping, like a launch pad.
I don't think
and then they just written him off because he walked into an Ange Postecoglou system that the Premier League was completely written off by the performance of not just... He was the only player in those games, by the way, in the second half of the season that looked like he gave a shit. He looked like he gave a shit. Nobody else did in those Premier League games. I just feel like people have got incredibly short memories and they're 180ing their narrative to try to be right now. And I think it needs to be reminded because I remember it very, very well what happened in the end of January.
Who
what?
Who's got this opinion that you said? Because I definitely didn't have this opinion in any way, shape, or form.
Everybody.
There were loads in my chat that didn't want him, Sean. There were loads that didn't want him. Loads.
AFTV were going mental. United fan channels were going mental about letting him come to Tottenham. Everything I've just said was in my...
Sean,
go on.
Sean, right. when we signed Matthias, when we looked at Matthias Tel, my initial reaction was, who is he? Why are we spending money on another young player? I don't want him, simply based on the fact I'm tired of young players. I want proven talent. For example, Kudus, Paulinho, get me players like that. Then when we signed him, there was a mini hysteria, you're right, from sections of our fan base and some other YouTube Spurs channels. And I sat there watching thinking, you're so desperate for signings that you're now going to make this sound as if this is so great when we know nothing about this player. It's ridiculous. He then came to Spurs and he was on loan for 4-5 months to the season ended. He did nothing. He did absolutely nothing. I thought, what is the point of this loan deal? What absolute farce. We had 3 key injuries in the Europa Cup final. Maddison, Bergvall, and Kolo. He still couldn't start that game. I'm thinking, he's not very good, is he? We then sign him, and I'm thinking, why? Why are we doing this? And since we've signed him, with the exception of the Leeds game, he's done.
The signing was done. The signing.
Hear me out, Sean. Hear me out. Since we kept him, he's done nothing. Right now, if fans want to get on board with Tel and they want to think, he's going to come good, you wait and see, I'm cool with that. But for me, I will always support my team, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to be truthful about what I think about him. He's done nothing for me to say, I want you at Spurs. If he one day proves it by being consistently good, creating, scoring, assisting on a regular basis, then I'll say, do you know what? I'm going to have to eat some serious humble pie here, and I'm going to get it from all of you guys, with the exception of probably Saba, because he's semi-agreeing with me on this. He's done nothing for me to say yay. Johnny, I hope he does well. I really do.
I'm not saying you might be right. You might be. Listen,
hold on. On a match day, I will support whoever's on the pitch. When I'm in the stands, I support whoever's on the pitch. But I just can't get on board with Project Tel because of one game against Leeds. Doesn't do it for me. I need to see a lot more than that. A lot more.
I feel a bit guilty, right? Because I've got to be honest, right? I put together a real damning video on Matthias Tel, right? Of all his misses, right in front of goal.
You're the problem. You're the problem.
Oh, and then afterwards, I saw a lot of the comments in the video, and I thought to myself, you know what? I am part of the problem because all I'm doing is I'm highlighting his deficiencies. I'm not helping anything here. And maybe I shouldn't be doing that for a kid that's 20 years of age. It's all right to be doing it for a Richarlison or a 28-year-old, 29-year-old who's not producing it for the club. But for a 20-year-old, I felt like I was wrong. And all I'm saying is that you might well be right. Might be the same about Wilson Odabber. But, I didn't have that feeling about Lucas Bergvall. As soon as I saw Lucas Bergvall, first time I set eyes on him in pre-season against QPR, I stood up and I was going, oh, my God, this kid's unbelievable. And everyone, calm down. But it's the same thing, overhype and underhype. I just think we should all want the players to do well, regardless of our thoughts on them. And it's a difficult thing because we have our favourites. We can see the club isn't really where we feel it could be. But let's be honest, if one of those players turns out to end up having a good season, wow, we can all look back and say, you know what, we were all wrong.
The issue is we say this about Bergvall. Lubo says it about Gray. Every youngster we've signed is going to be really, really good because we've seen something. Yeah. But none of them yet have shown me that they're at the level of being the pedigree needed to win league titles, to win Champions Leagues, to consistently win cups. None of them, including Bergvall. I think Bergvall's probably the most developed of them, of the ones we've signed, the youngsters.
Yes, 100%.
None of them have shown me that they can boss a game of football or have the kind of impact where you say, wow, this is the next Gareth Bale, this is the next Harry Kane, or this is another Maddison, or none of them yet have shown that to me.
But when you look at Harry Kane, when he was out on his loans, for example, all the abuse that Jamie Donnelly gets, look at him, he can't get a game, he's rubbish, he's not going to go anywhere. It's like the same with Mikey Moore, right? Mikey Moore, his stint at Rangers. Russell Martin is playing him in an 8. He's not an 8, right? And for Rangers fan, he's the easiest target in that team. Let's blame a kid who's just 18 for the downfall of Glasgow Rangers when you've got a shit manager. So all the media, all the hype, all the story, all the news is all focused on Mikey Moore being shit. When the truth of the matter is you've got a shit manager who's playing him in the wrong position. He then goes to play for the England under-19s. He scores a hat-trick. I'm not saying that makes him a fantastic player. He's going to do it. But what I'm saying is you have to get the context.
Change the environment, change the player sometimes.
Correct.
A lot of people are judging Matthias Tell on the 6 months that they saw under Ange Postecoglou, of which most of the games that he participated
everyone was
in
shit.
The league, and no one gave a shit, and everybody was shit, and he was one of the better players amongst a shit crew.
Everyone was shit. Our defence was shit.
But there's a bit of a difference here for me, because I don't go in on our youth, our own academy players. I think they're actually better than what a lot of fans give them credit for. But why I judge the youth differently is because none of our youth, none of them have been given the minutes at Spurs that the Odaberts, the Greys, the Bergvalls and the Tells have been given.
Right.
Give our youngsters those minutes and then we can judge at Spurs. The chance of that happening are probably 0 because we've signed all these other youngsters for silly money that aren't really at the level.
Would you give them the time?
This is why I judge Tell differently to the Mikey Moores, the Donnellys, etc.
But would you? Would you do that? Right. So, say for example, one of the players that's in the academy is Odabber and Stell right now, performing the way they are. What would your thing that these aren't good enough? We need to go and buy proper oven-ready players for these positions. You'd be saying,
like I said, no, hold on, no, because Odabber and Tell weren't really ripping up trees before they came to Spurs. They weren't exactly wow.
No,
I mean, look, our academy. Look, we can only judge the academy players at what they do at academy